Immortal, invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible, hid from our eyes. Lines from a hymn that capture the mystery of God. But in this scientific age, we've become accustomed to proof. Is there any evidence for God? Adam Dean, Muslim philosophy, and quite a hand went up straight at the back, so I will be coming to that gentleman, but I'll come to you first, Adam Dean. Do we have any evidence for God?
Absolutely. There are tremendous amount of evidence on the side of God. If we probe the observable universe, we will see signposts pointing to a transcendence. There are approximately...
Now, you're going to have to keep this simple for me,
okay.
if you don't mind.
There are approximately 24 arguments for the existence of God, and I like to use two. The first is that we know now that the universe is not eternal in the past, but it has a finite beginning. That we know that the universe began to exist.
This is the Big Bang, yeah?
Absolutely, yes. And what the Big Bang indicates is that all physical space and time began at that point. Now, because the universe began to exist, it must have been caused, and that cause, by definition, must be outside the Big Bang. Also, that what we know now is that the initial conditions of the universe were delicately and exquisitely fine-tuned for the existence of intelligent life. What that indicates is that there is an intelligence behind the universe. So we have an originator and intelligence behind the universe that gives us good reasons to believe that God exists.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep my questions very simple here. So here's my next one. Why did it take so long, then, from the Big Bang to come up with humans? You know, why did plants and reptiles and dinosaurs and mammals precede us?
I mean, that's a question of what was in the mind of God to create human beings. That does not...
So he was working on it all those millions of years?
Well, he wasn't working on it. But what you have to understand, that doesn't, even if we couldn't come out with an answer for that, that wouldn't show that God doesn't exist. Well, that would say that there is a mystery around his mechanism, if you like. Well, the question is there any evidence for God's existence? And absolutely there is. The alternative is this. That in an era of science and reason, we're supposed to adopt the atheist position, which is that the universe just popped into existence uncaused, just by magic. I think that's an untenable position to maintain.
Okay, well, let's speak to an atheist then. That seems an appropriate thing to do. Professor Peter Atkins, the Big Bang, it must have been caused by something, and because this universe is so finely tuned for human life, it is evidence of an intelligent designer.
We've heard the evidence of a lazy mind, I'm afraid, not a thoughtful mind. The whole point about science is to work back to understanding how things took place. Now, I have to admit that at the moment we don't know how the universe came into existence at the moment of incipience. But look how far we've come in the past 100 years compared with how far religion has come in the past 3,000 years. It hasn't moved 1 inch towards understanding. All it does is to assert. It throws in the towel. It says, God did it. And that's an abnegation of the intellect. What scientists are doing are working back to within milliseconds with great authority towards microseconds, towards nanoseconds and so on, gradually working towards the moment of incipience. And that's the way to do it. It's not the way just to jump in and say, this is what happened. As to the fine-tuning, I mean, you need imagination. Science is all about imagination tempered with caution. And we haven't run out of ideas about why the universe is so well-tuned. It might just be luck. I mean, it might just be that we're here happily by luck.
A happy accident, madam.
Yeah.
Okay, but can I just say that this is a typical tactic from someone who I would consider a militant atheist. That is it's not.
It didn't say that on his badge. It has to be said. It just said atheist.
I'm familiar with Dr. Atkins' work. This is not a debate between religion and science.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. And I'm not going. No, this is not.
Okay.
The arguments that I use in my debates and my lectures are based on science.
No,
Science dictates that the universe began to exist.
Now,
going back to this point about the fine-tuning, and it could be by accident, we have to think about the odds here. It is 10 to the power of 10 by the power of 123.
No, that's just a number that you
Roger
dreamt up
Penrose said
came
that
in.
we could not write that number down.
Yeah.
We could not write that number down because it exceeds the number of particles in the universe.
Sorry, the probability is 1.
To the point...
Hang on, I mean, I'm not going to take all this on my shoulders. Is this convincing anyone? Is this going anywhere?
Much of the discussion of the existence of God is more like we are here, we can see each other, and we think of God as this Santa Claus type guy somewhere else. What if God is the ultimate foundation of everything? We cannot discuss. What if God is ultimate reality? So a better question, perhaps, is what is God like? And this evidence.
Everyone's questioning my questions today.
I was taking my son to the doctors, and the nurse or the doctor noticed that one of his legs was shorter than the other. So my wife pointed out that I had this problem when I was young, and just before I went into the surgery, my mom said that she'd been praying a long time, for 7 days actually, for this specific surgery, and asked the doctor to take another series of x-rays and so on, which he did, and found out that my leg was now normal. My mom looked at it as the evidence to prayer. The doctor I was talking to said that my hip must have been unlocked, and then it puts it in position. The point is, we look at the evidence, but that's all it is, because what you look for, you will find. If you want to look for something, you will find it.
Hang on, this lady here.
In 2008, the Royal College of Psychiatrists looked at what happens to people when they have a mental illness. And what they found was that people who had a faith, who believed in a transcendent being, were able to recover from that illness. Also, in the center of the brain, MRI scans show that when people meditate, when they pray, when they go through a worship experience, their pulse lowers, the blood pressure comes down. And people will give testimonies and evidence that believing in God has a psychological positive impact on their choices for health. We have health programs in our churches where people come in, we teach them how to eat well, rest and relax, and stress management. And when they realize that there's a God, there is a faith, it gives them positive outlook on life, it makes them, it enhances their life and their well-being to make positive choices. Science is now showing that, for instance, people, the Seventh-day Adventists have longevity, and part of that is their faith and their positive aspect in life. So science is showing.
We could say that belief is valuable, we could conclude that belief is valuable, but that doesn't necessarily establish that there is evidence of God.
I mean, if I may go back to what Peter has said, he says that religion hasn't gone on in 3,000 years, but actually religion has been the basis for the emergence of science itself. The view of an ordered universe, the view of an ordered universe where there are immutable laws stems from religious belief. Science has used that. That's wonderful that it's used it, but it should acknowledge its debt.
Yes, but of course we do acknowledge it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Immutable laws. Thank you very much. May I just finish? Immutable laws. You're talking about, you were asking why it took human beings so long to emerge from a primeval soup. That's because of the nature of the soup. In life, you have a reversal of matter's tendency to inertness. You have complexification, as Peter Atkins, I'm sure, will agree. You have convergence in evolution itself. You have cooperation within the species and among the species developing. You have then the emergence of consciousness, of conscious beings, and then of self-consciousness. Beings who can ask themselves, as we are doing this morning, why we are here at all. I mean, isn't that remarkable?
But I think what's also remarkable is that there is this God-shaped hole that you were talking about. And, you know, reason and rational deduction and scientific investigation can explain to us, for instance, all about sex and sexual urges, but they can't explain about love.
Yes, they can.
And that is the God-shaped hole.
Now, hang on, Peter Atkins is about to explain love. So please, pipe down.
I mean, there is nothing.
Let's hear it.
There is nothing that the scientific method cannot be applied to and fail to elucidate.
So tell us about love.
Hormones,
Professor Atkins.
psychology. Yeah, that is the mode of an investigation to understand love.
Psychology on love?
I mean,
Sorry, can I
Hang on.
Let's go back to the real question that we're supposed to be.
Well, no, I think we want
I'm
you to
sorry,
explain love.
This is the real question, Professor Atkins.
Explain love.
Yeah, I will turn to a psychologist to explain love to
Oliver?
Okay, well, Christina, answer me, why is that such... Hang on.
It's an important...
Well, Oliver,
it's an important...
I will come to you, Oliver, he's a resident psychologist, but tell me, why is it the most important question?
Because I think love is the most important question, and I think God is the answer. It's the transcendence of love. And I'll tell you what else I think is really important about this debate. That Professor Atkins and his ilk are not only questioning the existence of God, but they can't tolerate our faith in God. And I think that that's one of the most important things about believing in God.
But there's
is that
two things,
I
there's
don't want
faith
to
and there's
have-
evidence.
I think